understand the reason why people do things is not because there's just they always want. That necessarily means when I want to do something, that means I have to get something in return. When I do not get something in return and I fall under the cycle of doing things for random people, that's when I get taken advantage of. Understand why is then, how is this now brought out? How is the premium on loyalty, how does it look like in the status quo? Firstly, loyalty is taught to you as something that is good from a very young age. You have been taught to you by religion because you have to be loyal to your religion. There's a pop culture references that shows that why you need to be loyal. There's family indoctrination that says why loyalty is something that is always going to be appreciated and you will get returns from it, and why there are institutions like army that actually teach it. So how does this premium necessarily look like? This can be materialistic, can be immaterialistic, right? It can just be that if you are loyal to me, I will give things to you in return and I will trust to you insofar as that you actually give things to me in the long run. And immaterialistic things like the fact that you are loyal to me at that particular situation makes me want to appreciate you. So even if you OG loses the debate, OG can, Siamaya can still not hate him and still appreciate him because he was there. Arif Faisal Bhai was there for him at that particular point of time. Appreciation, medal of honor, all of this works. So why then we necessarily think premium of loyalty is something that is good? In society, we don't do things because we are interdependent on each other. This means that we owe things to each other, and the basis of loyalty is this, that we owe things to each other because they do things for me, I do things for them. When there is a premium on them, this means that when the premium does not exist, this means we don't have faith in our interactions and relations. This means the loyalty that exists in their house will be much, much less. Why do we think that this is much, much important? I think that the reason why the human civilization throughout history has existed so far is not because people weren't loyal or people just thought that loyalty is not something that will get me something, right? The reason why we didn't get lost in the fight of evolution, in the race of evolution, is because people thought if I am loyal, someone else is going to be loyal to me, and there's a transactional relationship that exists in the status quo. Means that the reason why people survived within this prehistoric times, in social cohesion throughout agricultural societies, is because there was a premium that was placed on loyalties, because people thought that it is transactional and I will get something in return if I do act on that particular scenario. Why do we then think that people are more loyal if a premium is placed? Because understand that loyalty is not easy, it is difficult. Why is it incredibly difficult? Because you make yourself vulnerable. You defend them in front of other people. That means, insofar as you are the person who are making yourself vulnerable for that particular person, you are the one who is taking a risk. Insofar as you are taking a risk, it means that it should have a reward. Insofar as the reward does not exist in the OG's world, we think that people are unlikely to be loyal in the first place, and we will tell you why that leads to a plethora of harms in their sort of house or benefits in ours. Understand that we already proved to you why premium is the mechanism that gives people the basis of trying to act in good ways. Understand that this also extends in modern times. How does international geopolitics works, right? The moment in time, a random country does not bomb another country, and just because they are a small country and it does not go out of war, the reason that things like nuclear proliferation works, in modern times, it means because I am loyal to them, right? The moment in time I think that they would not stab me in the back, the moment in time I know that Sahib will not stab me in the back, and this gives me a sense of security, is something that is incredibly important. And the reason I do not do the same to Sahib, because I know for a fact that he wouldn't do it to me in the first place. So the importance that is placed to it is something that deters me from going against loyalty. But secondly, understand this is sure.
The comparative is, even if you expect a return, doesn't mean you will get that return, because there are many structural reasons that make it difficult. At least under our world, we take it on a case-by-case basis. On your world, we expect it as a blanket.
Sure. In our world, we do take, even if, I really don't think that we don't take it as a blanket, but even if we were to, we think people should expect things on a return. Because if I do not expect things, the likelihood of me being taken for advantage is likely to be high. This is exclusively harmful for people who are in a lower position of power, right? The people who are in a lower position of power are unlikely to get that upper hand, because who are in a higher position of power in any scenario whatsoever are likely to get away with these things, because they do not they probably require the help or the loyalty much less. The people who are in a higher position of lower position of power are likely to be more misused in their stuff. Why is this now really important? When there is a premium placed on loyalty, you think about things like social movement, right? You require a huge amount of sacrifice. The reason why we can solve things like the collective action problem and do things that are good for the general good and actually live in a society as a whole, that necessarily means that people actually are willing to sacrifice for the betterment of a whole. That means the reason that they do it is because they expect that there is a goal. The hope of the premium gives them the hope that there is something that we are going to get in the long run. That drives them for this social movement or the social cohesion in the very first place. That necessarily, they might say that your world, the premium, there is no expectation, they go on a case-by-case basis. But realistically speaking, when I am a probably LGBTQ person in Bangladesh, my calculus does not tell me that going out on the street and actually fighting for my right is not necessarily give me something in return. That does not tell me that. But the reason that I actually can go out and talk about it openly, even after studying in IoT, that necessarily means that the risk I am willing to take is exorbitantly high, and it has to be taken, and the reason I take it is because of the premium and the appreciation that I think is valuable in the long run. What then happens on a micro level? In a micro level, on person-to-person interactions, think about relationships, think about like interpersonal relation. The reason my friend trusts me, the reason any personal relationship is existent is because it's not just something that is on a vacuum, but rather we trust them because there is something they're going to get in return. Otherwise, I'm just a stupid who realizes one other.
Thanks to the leader of opposition for that fine speech. Can we please now have Deputy Prime Minister whenever they're ready?
Hi. Okay. Starting my debate in 3, 2, 1. The problem with opening opposition, they have a very generic understanding of our counterfactual, right? Because understand that even in our side of the house, it's not like we are like saying loyalty, but being like cheating around is good. That means even in our side of the house, being loyal is a very valuable thing to, it's a virtue that already exists under our side of the world as well. There is value to loyalty, right? Because when you are loyal, it's a consistent reciprocate relationship that you get, and also when you are loyal, you gain trust, and trust can be very useful. You can use it for your personal gains in the future. That means even in our side of the house, there are significant incentive for individuals to remain loyal to begin with, right? So the comparative that Moise tries to run in this particular debate doesn't really stand. But also understand, even in our side of the house, there are narratives like how you should get out of toxic relationship also exists under our side of the house as well. So it's not like people are going to like randomly stay in toxic relationship even if that is not healthy, right? But second of all, understand panel, even in our side of the house, there will be certain expectations that exist within the relationships, and if you are not getting those expectations met, you are also living relationship under our side of the house as well. But what is the delta then under our side of the house? Because understand panel, relationships are complex. There will be times when I won't be able to give sufficient time to my girlfriend. There will be times where I will be very busy going to mental health crisis, right? That means to live a long, healthy relationship, there will be times of like highs and lows that individuals needs to be patient and work towards it, right? But why is that a very debate-winning framing? Because under their side of the house, the framing under opposition is premium, right? Because when you feel like you are not being like valued or treated on a very high manner, it's a moment in time you feel like the relationship is not working. Because oh my god, I'm being loyal to you, why you are not giving me sufficient time? I need to break up with you, right? So this sort of expectation happens more under their side of the house. But why our comparative is better? Why the comparative is better under our side of the house? Look what Siam framed under our side of the house, right? Because even in our side of the house, we are not seeing loyalty as a premium. We are seeing loyalty is something that is expected. Like it's a very basic human decency to have, and every human being should have loyalty, and this is a very basic virtue to have to begin with. That means in our side of the house, in our side of the house, individuals know and has this knows that they need to be loyal because this is a good thing to do, right? Because I will ask it further. So in our side of the house, we so also in terms of proving like why do people are likely to be more loyal under our side of the house, because if loyalty is the metric, we are winning. Because first of all, understand in their side of the house, the comparative is like loyalty is a premium thing to begin with, right? That means if in their side of the house, if you are not being treated like in a premium manner, that means okay, fine, he or she doesn't deserve my loyalty, let me cheat around, right? So the probability of like infidelity happening under their side of the house is even higher in their side of the house, right? But note, it is not a basic expectation, it's a premium. Not everybody wants to be premium, right? That means when I am feeling urges to cheat, or when I am feeling like okay, let me flirt around with other individuals, at that moment in time, I feel like okay, fuck this, I don't want to be a premium person, like who cares, right? Because not every individual wants to feel like they are premium to begin with, and this is important because like Moes talks about like social movement and whatsoever, because the burden of loyalty or the expectation of loyalty is premium, right? That means most people cannot attain it, right? Because you set the bar very high under their side of the house. Like CM has given you like quite an illustration how movies and shows loyalty under their side of the house. That means the ability for most people to actually act and be loyal and stay loyal to their movement is higher, because this is a premium thing to do. This is the social activists who are working like Mullah will probably continue to do so, right? Who am I to continue this sort of act to begin with? In our side of the house, it is much more expected, so we get better loyalty under our side of the house as well. But second of all, but before I move on POI from closing, if not then opening. Okay.
Understand that loyalty is an extremely coercive power to begin with. That if people are so smart that they are going to automatically leave all abusive relationships, why do so many women, battered women, stay in abusive relationships to begin with? Are they dumb according to you?
Alright, so this is amazing. If you are defending that case, then the competitive is better under our side of the house. Why is that so? Because under your side of the house, you spend significant amount of time with a partner, right? Like for instance, 10 years or 5 years. That means you put a lot of premium or a lot of value onto loyalty, right? That means it is even harder for you to get out of that relationship, because the burden that you feel or the emotional pressure that you feel under your side of the house is way more significant. Why is it better to leave relationships under our side of the house easier? Because note the comparative, right? Because we also mentioned the case by case basis, right? That means in our side of the house, if I feel like I'm in a relationship where it's not working out, or loyalty isn't just like based on like romantic relationships, right? Because if like Siam under their side of the house feels like I am teaming up with Adi for a very long time, and Rafiush came in North South University, and I want to team up with Rafiush, he feels a lot more pressure to leave that particular relationship that we have, which makes the relationship way more toxic under their side of the house. Under our side of the house, it's like when there is no premium, it is easier for him to actually process this emotion and process this decision and discuss it with me to actually make this decision to like team up with Rafiush then. That means it's easier for us to leave those relationships better under our side of the house, right? The reason why opening government is likely to win this debate, because opening government does a very basic debate. That's what you try to do in the finals, right? Because we tell you that on comparative, why if loyalty is the metric, we get more buying into the loyalty, and people are likely to be much more loyal because the barrier to loyalty is less under our side of the house. But we also show you why, like in instances where relationships get toxic, where you have invested a lot of emotional energy and a lot of finances, and it is not working out, when you want to leave the relationship, why it is easier to leave those relationships better under our side of the house. So we win on both of these metrics, so we are taking hopefully the rank first in this debate. Thank you.
first, engagement with opening government. Second, the cost of loyalty is declined. Third, like every other debate around the minorities. First, in terms of opening government, I have 4 observations. The first is they have a very convoluted concept of an counterfactual. The first speaker comes up and says that they want a case-by-case evaluation. Let's take a look at what that actually means. This requires every human being, in all of their interactions, not to operate by default, rather to make complicated moral calculus, rather to make complicated decisions, which is not necessarily something that an average rational human being can do. So there are 2 implications of this. First, this means that you lock out people without like any form of access to this complicated calculus decision making, which means that a lot of these individuals are genuinely locked out of having human relationships where they can be loyal to one another. But secondarily, it's just a concession that there is a decline of loyalty. Given that all of opening governance cases are like sort of hinged on this greater buy-in into loyalty, that already undermines all of their cases. Secondarily, they have a confusion of what a premium actually means. This is not tangible. It's not about what I get in dowry from my father-in-law, which maybe I won't take. But what's actually more important are the experiential values. Whatever Aditya wants to talk about, or Siamha wants to talk about, those are still encompassing of a premium. When you expect any form of reward from your investment in your loyalty, that means that it also comes with the experiential value like friendship, admiration, love, respect, appreciation of other individuals for being a selfless person, for investing into this relationship. The implication of this is very important. All of their claims about how people suddenly turn a new leaf and want a lot out of every single relationship is just simply bullshit. Third observation. If you take a look at all of their impacting, most of it is very micro level and very extreme. I don't care about toxic relationships, I don't care about toxic cases of love, because guess what? That's maybe a modern concept, or maybe not. But what's actually more important is this is a retrospective notion. You need to look at the larger scale. That's where Ashraf's argumentation, which is if 0 forms of engagement, comes into play. Take a look at how society actually evolved from pre-agrarian societies when people were fighting against each other. When you have 0 form of trust in your neighboring clan, all of those things are far more important because the modern society is literally hinged on human evolution. Insofar as premium-based loyalty is the prerequisite for its inception, all of the current society is hinged on that from ever happening. Insofar as we were able to access that, none of proposition's cases actually matter in this round. The last observation is that, which is a shift in Aditya's speech, anyway, they said that they want people to be loyal anyway, in a die-hard attempt to say that they have greater value. 2 problems with this. First, this means that people will be taken for granted a lot because it's easier just to exploit someone. If you have perverse incentives, you can trap people into problematic relationships and say, guess what, you should be loyal to me anyway. This has given far more leverage in terms of gaslighting you, in terms of exploiting you for the long run. But secondarily, you are unwilling to mend relationships actually because you are unwilling to do harder tasks. So even if you figure out you're stuck in a bad relationship, you're not willing to fix that relationship. It means you move away very, very quickly. Why is that problematic? What about relationships that are budding? What about instances of interactions which are not entirely toxic, which do have capacity of evolving into a good thing, or providing you net positive utility? What if all of those interactions, which in vast majority of cases do exist, which proposition completely forsakes? For all of these reasons, opening government irrelevant. Now, first question about what is the cost of loyalty's decline. The framing here that is very important is insofar as loyalty is a net positive, which I don't think any team in this debate will actually contest to. Insofar as we can prove we have greater buy-in, all impacts in this round will be hedged on this analysis, which puts us already ahead of whatever CG wants to say, whatever CEO wants to say. Why therefore do we think we have greater buy-in? Because it's just easier to hook people in when they think that there is a promise of a pot of gold at the end of rainbow. Because there is a confirmation bias. People already learn this through religion. People already understand this through other forms of social values. That we ought not to lie because it would be depriving people of truth. Or we ought not to do something bad because it would hurt you. Or for example, CG's principle that you ought not to do bad things insofar as you will be landing up in jail. The implication of this is insofar as there are pre-existing social norms which already fit into this thing, that a good thing should provide you a reward. It's just easier for people to buy this narrative. But secondarily, every action in society is predicated on a utilitarian reward. Because guess all of the things that we actually deem to be valuable in this world. Self-defense in and of itself still requires you to protect someone else's lives, which is still a utilitarian reward. Insofar as you concede to the fact that loyalty is a good thing, you need to provide people incentives. You need to make them go through the hard and arduous task of actually undertaking loyalty. know this is difficult. We know that this requires a lot of effort out of you. But you should be doing this, because if not something tangible, you get something experiential out of this. The reason this is very, very fundamental is because loyalty is the basis of social position. This is what based on which our society is built upon. Micro interactions between friends relies on reciprocity, which relies on loyalty. Because if I'm not loyal to you, why should I be reciprocal in my relationships to you? Closing, anything? Go.
It is because you hook people on the reward that makes loyalty either transactional or unattainable. That is why so much cheating happens. That is why the Chinese kingdom reformed and broke 1,000,000 times. Thanks for proving our case.
Bunch of examples, I don't know whether relevant, but more importantly, because transactions are not always just materialistic, maybe stalking a capitalist. Second, crash about minorities. Why are people, ask yourself, why do activists go in the street? They want something in return. They want changes. All of these are promised rewards, or if at least not promised, they feel that I can bring in changes, or at least they have self-validation that I'm doing a good thing. All of this would be absolutely absent insofar as people know that my loyalty has no value. The movement does not care about me. The movement does not treat me as an important asset. All of these things therefore mean that people really have zero incentive to be hooked onto a movement. Their pushback to this is poor activists will maybe protest anyway. Cool. But what about people who are in the center? What about people who are not as maybe suffering from shared oppression? What about people who are not black but maybe still a part of BLM? Why do these people still matter to the movement? Because you need a critical mass in order to lobby politicians, in order to show people that this is something which is very, very crucial, in order to bring in media traction, in order to be deemed a credible threat and a credible issue. You need numbers, you need critical mass. All of these things are absent or offside. So therefore they lock people and minorities in oppression. I want to end on a quote from Joker. If you're good for something, don't do it for free. Loyalty is art and you should be paid in full. Or both.
Starting in 3, 2. Oh, also, I've never done this, but a big shout out to I did too. I love you guys. Starting in 3, 2, 1. We will be the first house in this debate to actually characterize what loyalty is and not really talk about some flimsy definitions of what each of us interpret loyalty to be, right? Panel recognize. I'll first deal with opening opposition and then move on to the only and sort of the biggest deadlock in the opening half. First of all, let's talk about what Sahib claims. Sahib claims loyalty is cultivated through appreciation towards a person. It isn't something that you just give away for free. The problem here, panel, is first of all, it's not necessarily true because a lot of people are born into relationships where they're expected to be loyal. This could look like families, this could look like, whatever, friendships you enter. This could be anything. That is a very flimsy characterization, but second, they shy away from the burden of trying to defend, of trying to engage in those particular scenarios which do happen the most, and they're the easiest to exploit because recognize these are relationships you cannot opt out of. These are relationships that don't give you a window to opt out of. But secondly, panel, recognize that happy relationships don't come with a prerequisite of loyalty. If you are both great to each other, this debate does not concern you. But the problem is loyalty isn't just about people who are stuck in abusive relationships, even though OG wants you to debate on those extremes. Loyalty can also look like you deprioritizing yourself for the sake of people who you think you need to be loyal to. This looks like you choosing to major in something else just because you believe your parents who have worked so hard for you and you need to be loyal to them, to engage, to live a life that they picture for you. These could be instances of loyalty as well. Individuals don't just implement loyalty in their own lives, just in perspectives of staying in abusive relationships. This manifests in different forms, in different spheres of our lives. Opening opposition had to engage with that, they did not. But second, what's the biggest deadlock that exists on the opening half of the debate? The deadlock between loyalty and reciprocity. OG takes this OG sort of claims that they're going to have a case-by-case loyalty analysis situation, which is going to be their alternative. We have a more general solution. We think a premium placed on self-preservation is the solution to everything. I'll be explaining that later on, but recognize first of all the deadlock between reciprocity and loyalty. The exclusive benefits that opening opposition claims are that loyalty gives you a sort of exclusivity in terms of how people are behaving with you or how they treat you. The problem is, panel, reciprocity exists regardless. Why is that? When your parent truly loves you, you do love them back because born into let's say a family where you probably don't want to agree with everything that goes around, but you're forced to believe that you should, because you should be loyal to your parents, you should be loyal to your friends. Social narratives are formed surrounding these beliefs of loyalty. Why is this important? I will impact this because OG does not. Recognize panel, when social narratives are formed based on this, it's easier to exploit people, especially the most vulnerable ones. This could look like women being exploited, telling them, no, even if you're on the losing end, you should be loyal to this person, because guess what? That is what patriarchy does to them regardless. This is just another tool in the shed. Secondly, panel, this could look like exploiting the most vulnerable children who are dependent on their parents in so many ways. Thirdly, this could look like religious communities, minority communities taking advantage of these people when they try to leave these communities, even when they become abusive, even when they become a place where they don't want to be a part of. These are essentially places where these people cannot quit, dynamics which these people cannot quit because they are forced to remain here. Why then is self-preservation? Also recognize that self-preservation is not the same as being selfish. Why? It means you do not engage in relationships or companionships that can end up harming you. This does not mean you deprioritize every other person that exists in your life. This means you focus on what is making you happy. You focus on what is making you a better person, what is making your life, your choices just better, right? We think that this is important and a very, very key component in this debate, because recognize you are also likely to be a better person in your interpersonal relationships. When you know that the social norm is that people prioritize self-preservation instead of loyalty, you will also be respectful of your counterparts, of your children, of your wives or whoever you marry. You are going to be respectful of their right to self-preservation as well. This means because you want to keep them in your life, because you want to have these emotional connections, because you want these people on your side of the world, on your corner, you essentially prioritize their self-preservation, their right to it as well. This takes out their argument about people living in abusive relationships or people engaging in anything that does not give them happiness. We panel explain to you how through self-preservation we can solve the major problems that come up from the opening half of the bench. But recognize panel, you cannot win a debate sheerly based on talking about how loyalty forces people to stay in certain relationships. Because recognize when the benefits are not exclusive, you are not exclusive. Please vote CG.
Started my speech in 3, 2, 1. So the way in which I will give my speech is first I'll deal with CG and then I'll give my extension because we have a lot to cover. So CG's case is very confusing, right? Because they characterize premium as prioritization. They tell us that look, we should not prioritize loyalty over our own self-interest. But recognize the wording of the motion, right? The motion says this house regrets the premium placed on loyalty. Meaning here what premium means is things like giving time or giving efforts or giving giving there being some sort of reciprocity for there to be loyalty. That is what this motion is about. This motion is not about prioritizing others over your own interest, and that's not this debate. So let's understand what the government world looks like, or what happens when you regret premium placed on loyalty. What you essentially mean is that loyalty should be free, that there should not be any reciprocity or any premium placed on loyalty, meaning it is a virtue and it is something that people should follow blindly. There should not be any sort of reciprocity. Whereas in our side of the world, reciprocity is the key, right? We tell you that premium, loyalty is like a contract. What does it mean? Loyalty means that I'm going to stay with this person, I'm going to stay in this company, I'm going to vote for this person in the next election. That is what loyalty means. We tell you that this is a contract and that it is more meaningful in our side of the world. We tell you that this is more meaningful in our side of the world because of 3 reasons. We believe that premium is reflected in this relationship in 3 ways. Firstly, mutual consent. We tell you that when there is premium or when there is premium placed on loyalty, that is the moment in time, the effort in this relationship and the consent in this relationship is more visible. We tell you that that makes these relationships more meaningful. Secondly, we tell you that it adds more trust within these relationships, right? Because recognize that when there is premium placed on loyalty, that is the moment in time people are going to put in more effort within this relationship
relationship, and the trust within this relationship is going to be better. But thirdly, realize that the reason we enter into any sort of contract is for different types of benefits, right? So these benefits can look like emotional need, of course. In a macro context, it can look like your politician or the person you voted for giving certain benefits to you, or in an international relationship, it may look like America doing more for NATO, right? We tell you that the relationships are more meaningful when firstly there is less misunderstanding, and that happens when there is no premium placed on loyalty. Realize that when there is no premium placed on loyalty, you are supposed to be in a relationship that can be a micro relationship, like an interpersonal relationship, but also like other types of relationship that we talked about, right? There will be more misunderstanding, meaning you constantly think that whether the other person that I'm in this relationship in, whether that person loves me, or whether the politician that I have voted for, whether this politician actually cares for me. We tell you that this relationship, in order for it to be more meaningful, there needs to be less misunderstanding, which happens in our side of the world. Secondly, realize the unwanted, being unwanted feeling, right? The moment in time there is less like premium, there is no premium placed on loyalty, that is the moment in time this feeling will increase, because nobody will feel the incentive or the urge to like feel the other person wanted, and we think that's what makes this relationship more meaningful. Thirdly, realize that nature of relationship that exists in their side of the world versus the relationship that exists in our side of the world. We tell you that the nature of relationship that exists in their side of the world is very abusive, right? Because we tell you that loyalty itself can be a very abusive thing when it is free. Now we tell you that in our side of the world there is space to renegotiate, and we tell you that this is a very extremely important thing. Let's look at it in a macro level, right? Firstly, let's look at like how it affects the country's policies. Firstly, realize that the way in which the governments are formed in many parts of the world is through coalition government, meaning there are different parties that form a coalition. Realize that when there is like when the big parties need to put in effort in order to make these coalitions work, as opposed to when the small parties would vote for the big party anyway, that is the moment in time there is more room for negotiation within this coalition government. That is the moment in time the policies are going to get more moderated, and we think that's extremely important, right? But secondly, realize how oftentimes the politicians using this abusive structure when there is no premium placed on loyalty, takes advantage of the voters, right? Because that is the moment in time the voters, the politicians think that, you know what, you should vote for me because like I'm from your area, or because because we shared, I'm from your race, or that sort of thing. We tell you that no, there needs to be premium, meaning the politician needs to do something for these people, and that is the moment in time it will translate to more meaningful policies, right? But thirdly, realize that what is the moment in time the people are when the people feel less loyal to their politician leader, that is the moment in time they are going to actively rebel and want more strong policies, right? That is the moment in time more meaningful policies are going to pass. Realize this in a company angle, right? Because this is another thing that nobody talked about. Realize that if you are an employer, this is something that happens a lot in Japan, right? Because loyalty is so much that even if I don't give you more money, even if I don't give you more money for your better skill, or you are still supposed to remain in the company. We think this is extremely harmful, because that is the moment in time the companies can take advantage of these workers, right? What does it look like? It looks like no improvement in the working hour or the minimum wage of the workers. We think that's extremely harmful. We think that that is where things need to change. But thirdly, realize that the moment in time you feel less loyal to how international relations is going to look like, right? Because think about Trump. Trump doesn't care about NATO, and Trump is saying that I'm not going to give more money to NATO. Realize how it's going to also affect international relationship, in the sense that all of these countries need to work together, as opposed to now, where small countries are being forced to help the big countries, even when they are not giving anything in return. We think in a macro level there needs to be a premium based on loyalty. Thank you.
before we move on to government faith, can I request the audience to keep noises at a low because they are bribed enough significantly. That indicates government to political views come to government whenever you're ready.
3, 2, 1. This is not Bangla debate. Assertions won't help you win a final. Recognize from CO, the key idea we get in terms of relationships is that loyalty is the absolute basis of a relationship. And in the absence of loyalty, things are going to falter because number one, somehow loyalty adds more trust. Number two, loyalty makes effort more visible. Like for the second idea, I don't really see how loyalty makes effort more visible, more visible, no analysis. But regarding the idea of loyalty adding more trust, recognize that in our world, what we have essentially tried to say, something that they absolutely did not engage to, is the idea that loyalty is not the only basis through which people trust each other or people rely on each other. Let's say Sahib's best case, which is basically cavemen trusted each other and were loyal to each other. That's why we are debating here in NSU, right? That's not the case. The case is the fact that I, as a caveman, probably relied on another person for their specialization of, let's say, picking berries and whatnot, and relied on the fact that that person is going to bring food home for me. And that person relied on me on the fact that this person is going to hunt and protect our clan from all sorts of attacks that might happen. What does this essentially prove? This proves that besides loyalty, there are mutual benefits that people can generate, which is going to ensure that people are going to trust each other sufficiently enough and form societies, form coalitions, form groups, etc., etc. And this is not necessarily going to hamper the human evolution, right? We needed a lot more from the opening opposition on this regard. And second of all, like regarding how without loyalty there will be more misunderstanding. Again, no substantiation, but if I still take it at its face value, I can still like recognize if a person loves me or not by their actions. I don't strictly look at someone's loyalty and then say, this person doesn't love me or this person does love me. I do look at their actions when they're doing certain things for me, maybe acts of service, maybe affection, etc., etc. I think that's the basis of evaluating relationships, not loyalty, and people are not so dumb that they will just move on to simply focus on people's loyalty and loyalty only in order to evaluate relationships. Lastly, and the most weird idea regarding coalitions, we prefer a world where people are more like loyal to the policies of a government than a government or a political leader themselves. This is particularly important because there is no analysis from their world regarding the idea as to why is it so important for people to stick to particular political leaders at the end of the day. They give an example of people overworking in Japan. Recognize that Japan is a society where loyalty is placed at such a high premium that people literally forget their mental health, their physical health, and they commit suicide every single year, right? So I don't know how that's their argument. That's our argument. What the hell? Lastly, their layer regarding people will simply come up and say that vote for me because I'm from your area. That's something that's going to happen in CEO's world, because recognize that people are going to vote Awami League because their father voted for Awami League, their grandfather voted for Awami League, and they should be loyal to Awami League because there's a premium placed on loyalty more than anything else, right? So again, that's our argument. Now, before moving on to opening opposition,
your argument about self-preservation hinges on analysis, because if you're not loyal, why don't you think that the person I'm sharing berries with would just kill me and steal my berries?
Yeah, because what the hell? I mean, if that happens, within that case, there are other people who are going to ensure that and mark that this is a disloyal person or this is a person that might harm other people within the clan, and therefore we probably need to eliminate him as well. I mean, that person also gets killed or whatever. I don't know how a premium in loyalty solves that problem. Anyway, dealing with opening opposition. So opening opposition comes up with the collective action problem. Recognize that people don't do social movements, or Meg Mulder doesn't do leftist movement because he's loyal to the leftist movement. He's loyal to the ideals of the leftist movement to the point where as long as that movement or that those policies give him value or give him some degree of benefit, is the point in time where he's going to stick to those policies at the end of the day, right? So people do not go to movements just because they're loyal to their race or loyal to certain things. They go to movements because they can extract value out of it, right? So yeah, I don't know, right? Moving on, they drop assertive ideas regarding how there is a difficulty in moral calculation while dealing with everything on a case-by-case basis. No analysis. This is very weird. I know, from the expression of Sami Bhai, it looks like he's gonna expand on this idea, but no, you're away. So moving on. as to why is it better in our world. Because in our world, there are still some degree of heuristics when it comes to, let's say, evaluating people. So you do not need to go on everything on a case-by-case basis, like every individual small interaction on a case-by-case basis. Maybe you can group certain interactions under the premise of, is this person giving me enough time? You can group certain interactions under the premise of, is this person like doing me certain benefits, right? So in these situations, you develop some moral heuristics and mental calculations which you can apply in different places. So it's pretty simple, and it's not as obstruse as opening opposition wants you to believe, right? Moving on to why we win this debate and how our extensions provide enough value in this debate. Firstly, we are the only side that brings down the deadlock in the upper house regarding reciprocity and loyalty. Basma already discusses why there's a difference between self-preservation and selfishness, because recognize that when you're preserving yourself, you're looking after your own interests, but there are still values like love, compassion, friendship, etc., which exist in our world to ensure that yes, I have an interest to ensure that someone I love is getting certain benefits from me. There is a natural inclination towards loving our parents, loving our friends, loving the person I'm married to, etc., right? So these natural inclinations are sufficient in our world to ensure that people are going to be benefited and not everything is going to be transactional or materialistic. For them to win the debate, they needed to show why loyalty is the absolute or the majority basis of all the good things that happen in our world. That's absolutely not the case. We show how emotional alliances work, we show how other materialistic alliances work, and that's why we have a lead in this debate. We also discuss how exclusively loyalty becomes a problem when you're on the losing side of the bargain. This debate is not about all the good situations and all the flowery things in this debate. Because recognize that in these sorts of situations, there's a narrative that you have to stick to your family. If your partner doesn't treat you well, you have to stick, maybe because of your child or some shit. You have to stick to the religion that you're following because you're meant to be loyal to that religion. The premium placed on loyalty looks like a very absolute deontological value to which you're absolutely supposed to stick to, and people felt like this is the only way to maintain trust. Recognize that this is not the only way. People can do better than this. People have other stronger emotions which ensure that we are nice to each other.
Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1, go. Understand, panel, there is two significant problems from the entire amendment, but mostly from CG. The CG confuses the definition of premiums with privatization to begin with. What does this mean? What is premium? Understand, where do we use the word premium to begin with? We use them in medical insurance, that you have basic pay and then you have a premium on top of it as extra, right? You get extra benefits on top of it. It's not the priority you put on things. Please understand that this is not the debate, that whether we should focus on, if that was the debate, then the motion would simply have said, this house believes that focusing too much on loyalty retrospectively was a mistake. That's not the debate. The debate is that whether loyalty should be the default attitude people approach relationships and interactions with, or should they surround that base level of commitment with other things that round out their contracts to begin with. That's the debate, right? They missed that out on the first place, right? What is the second problem of CG? The second problem of CG is they assume perfectly rational thinkers as people are perfectly rational thinkers who objectively know that what is the balance of benefits and harms. I have perfect knowledge that yes, you have been abusive to me. If that was the case, most battered women would lead an abusive relationship. Things that I've been saying from pushing towards OG from the minute one, right? We are telling you, we have given you two significant framings. A, that hey, human interaction works on an unwritten social contract, the elements of which are often exploitative. And this needs constant reevaluation in order for those contracts and associations to be meaningful. If you have default loyalty attitude when you go to interact with other people, whether it be in the state or political process, whether it be employment, whether it be personal relationships, you do not reevaluate the terms of this unwritten contract. What this leads to is exploitative, one-sided relationships and interactions, which relates to more harm and exploitation overall. This is the particular feeling that we gave, and this is what CG failed to engage, right? does not do meaningful social activism because he does not place a premium on the loyalty that he has to the Communist Party, right? If he did not have that premium, if he wanted that premium, he would just go to Ganosambhati and do the movement under Jonaid Saki to begin with, right? He wouldn't stick to a defunct socialist party to begin with, right? Understand what you're arguing, then make that argument, okay? Now, understand what did we give you? We gave you concept. We gave you that people often do not want to be in relationships. Right? People do not have the consent. What does this mean in the macro level? This means unequal trade partnerships. This means people's consent not being taken in the political process. This means political disenfranchisement. This means Hasina not asking or caring about whether the people supports her in the first place to remain in power. This lack of consent in that social contract happens because Hasina feels she owns the country because she is the daughter of Bangabandhu. That I deserve loyalty because my father freed this nation. This loyalty, when it has no premium, makes Hasina an autocrat. That when there is a premium attached to that loyalty, when Hasina has to prove herself why she deserves to be in power, we live in a democracy. Otherwise, in default loyalty, we live in an autocracy. Second of all, understand trust. That even if like 2018 election was fair, there is a decent chance Hasina would have won anyway, right? Understand that if Hasina government had the foresight of understanding that loyalty has to have a premium, then they would have worked to regain the public trust, highlighted their achievement, and got into that place in the first place, right? Third of all, benefit. The benefits that people are getting are very abstract. People do not keep a perfect counter of benefits and harms. This is why you are very irrational when it comes to loyalty in the first place. Or tries to say this, that hey, you have been like cavemen brained into believing loyalty is good. But they do not say the implication. The implication is that it makes you irrationally likely to be inside exploitative contracts. Right? This is true for capitalism. This is where you exploit your workers. This is where you disenfranchise your voters. This is where unequal exchange happens from the global north countries, developed countries, to the global south countries, to resource extraction and neo-imperialism. Why is this more important? Because the upper house exclusively does debate on interpersonal relationships. We believe our impacts exclusively gives you a more general structure to analyze human interaction, and this is more impactful because more resource extraction from people means the quality of life of people going down in general, which is much more better than some people cheating on each other. I don't understand why is that more impactful than that. Okay.
You have not proved the likelihood of actually getting the reward of that premium, which means conflicts still happen under your side. The difference is it's harder for you to leave because of sunk cost fallacy, but in our world it's easier to leave.
Okay, understand that our main point is revaluation. You need to want to reevaluate that contract from both sides of the house. And otherwise you're stuck on the previous structure, previous contract which is exploitative to begin with. When you expect loyalty as a default, you have no incentive to go and reevaluate or renegotiate, right? When you think that, hey, I am America, Southeast Asia is going to follow me regardless, that is the moment you do not, court them and court their benefits and do not add on to premiums after premiums. And that's why they go to China, because America does not reevaluate the contract it has with those Southeast Asian countries, right? So this expectation attitude, this worldview, that when you do not place a premium on loyalty, you have the attitude of approaching loyalty as being free and default. That's why you take it for granted. You treat your trade partners worse, you treat your voters worse, you treat your employees worse, you treat your families worse, you treat your significant other worse. In all layers, significantly exploitative structures are things that exploitative structures that is the default, and that has changed due to the premium that we have placed, and extremely proud to oppose. Did I have 15 seconds?
Thanks to Ahmed. Can you round of applause for all the debaters in the final? And with that, so the debate is 10 for